Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're looking at something that might seem a little, well, lighthearted at first glance,
Yeah, okay.
social media pranks. But we're actually going to uncover some pretty surprising, maybe even serious findings from some research we've got.
Yeah.
We've got, let's see, excerpts here from a 2024 conference paper
Okay.
from the Nigerian Psychological Association.
Interesting.
And then we've also got this 2022 research paper from the International Journal of Law Management and Humanities.
Oh, okay.
Now, what's fascinating here is that both of these papers are kind of suggesting that pranks, especially these days with social media, aren't always just harmless fun.
Right.
Like they can actually have some deeper impact on the people involved, obviously, but even on society as a whole.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's true. It's easy, to get caught up in the humor of a prank, haha.
Yeah.
But these research papers, they really dig deeper into the potential consequences,
Okay.
particularly for mental health and even, get this, national development.
Okay, wait. National development. That's a pretty heavy concept to connect with something like a prank, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you've definitely got my attention now.
Okay.
So help me out here.
Sure.
How are those two things even related?
Well, just think about it this way.
Okay.
Imagine you've got a whole society where everybody's constantly on edge, right?
Okay.
Worried about being tricked or deceived online.
Yeah.
That anxiety that's always kind of there can actually have a ripple effect, right? On everything from, like online business transactions to
Yeah.
civic engagement and things like that.
Right.
For example, let's say somebody is constantly worried about being scammed, right? They might be way less likely to trust
Okay.
something like an e-governance initiative or even like hesitate to donate to an online fundraiser.
That makes sense.
Right. And so all of this erosion of trust,
Yeah.
it can actually hinder a nation's progress in the digital age.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
I never thought about it that way.
It makes sense, though, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like, when you lend somebody a book and they
Uh-huh.
never give it back.
Exactly.
You think twice about trusting them with anything
Absolutely.
ever again.
It's that same kind of principle.
So the research is saying that these pranks, even if they seem funny,
Yeah.
On the surface, can contribute to that widespread distrust.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Oh, wow.
And these studies, they go even deeper, too. They get
Wow.
into the psychological effects on the individuals
Wow.
who are actually, targeted by these pranks. It's more than just like a fleeting moment of embarrassment.
Right.
We're talking long-term consequences,
Oh, wow.
like anxiety, depression, even paranoia.
Really? Paranoia.
Yeah,
That seems like a very extreme reaction to a prank.
I know, right?
What are these pranks like that would cause, such intense feelings?
Well, you'd be surprised.
Oh.
Some of these pranks, they can be so elaborate and convincing.
Oh, wow.
Think about it. Somebody thinks that they're being offered, a life-changing scholarship
Yeah.
or their absolute dream job.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, bam, it's a setup for a viral video.
Oh, I see.
And the research actually found that those feelings, of betrayal and humiliation, they can really linger.
Wow.
One participant even described feeling like they were constantly looking over their shoulder,
Yeah.
afraid of being tricked again.
That must be just incredibly unsettling to
Yes.
always feel like you're on guard,
Yeah.
waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Exactly.
So it's like the immediate emotional impact is already intense.
Yeah,
But then there are these long-term psychological effects as well.
absolutely.
Wow.
And it's important to remember, though, that
Yeah.
not everybody reacts the same way to pranks,
Right.
right? I mean, some people, they might just brush it off.
Right.
But for other people,
Yeah.
it can be deeply upsetting and really affect
Oh, wow.
their self-esteem, their relationships, their overall outlook on life.
Wow. Okay. So
Yeah.
we've got this kind of almost like this baseline level of anxiety in society.
Yeah.
And then you layer on these really intense
Yeah.
psychological effects from being pranked.
Yeah.
And it's not the same for everybody, but for some people it can be really damaging.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to keep digging into here.
Okay, all right. Well,
Yeah.
let's take a quick break and then we'll come back and get into some more.
Sounds good.
It's almost like social media like ups the ante, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I mean, before it might have been just a silly thing among friends.
Right.
But now it's like these pranks can reach millions of people.
Absolutely.
And that public humiliation can be really, really damaging.
Yeah, that's a really crucial point. The The reach and permanence of social media, it's a total game changer. It's
Yeah.
not just about the prank itself anymore.
Right.
It's the video going viral, the comments, the shares, the memes.
Oh, God.
It's like this digital footprint
Yeah.
that's incredibly hard to erase.
And that makes me think about the pranksters themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's their motivation here?
Oh,
Is it just for
yeah.
laughs? Or is there something more going on?
The research actually suggests that financial incentives are a huge factor.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of these pranksters are making serious bank
Wow.
from their YouTube channels, Instagram accounts, TikTok profile.
So the more outrageous the prank,
Oh,
the
absolutely.
more views, the more subscribers, the more money.
Yep. It's
yeah.
all about going viral.
So it's almost like this kind of twisted business model
It is, in a way.
where someone else's humiliation is like a commodity.
Right, and that's what creates this dangerous dynamic.
Yeah.
Where the pressure to create that viral content,
Yeah.
it overrides any ethical considerations.
Wow, it's like a race to the bottom almost.
It is. It really is.
To see like how extreme these pranks can get.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to forget that there are, real people on the other side of those videos experiencing real pain, real humiliation.
Absolutely, and as we were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
it's not just about the individuals.
Right.
There's that broader societal impact as well.
Yeah, and I'm really curious about that actually. Like, what are the economic consequences?
Well, think about it.
Yeah.
All this erosion of trust we've been discussing,
Mm-hmm.
it can have some serious economic repercussions.
Oh.
Take online businesses, for example.
Mm-hmm.
If people are constantly worried about being scammed or tricked,
Right.
they're going to be less likely to engage in e-commerce,
Yeah.
invest in online ventures,
Mhm.
or even just participate in the digital economy as a whole.
So these pranks, they're not just like harmless entertainment.
No.
They can actually like hinder economic growth and development.
Yes, exactly. And the costs, they go beyond just financial losses.
Oh, okay.
There's also a strain on mental health resources.
Oh, right.
Think about it. As more and more people experience anxiety and depression
Mm-hmm.
and other mental health issues as a result of these pranks,
Yeah.
the demand for counseling and therapy
Mm-hmm.
and other support services just keeps increasing.
Right.
And that puts a strain on already limited resources.
So it's like a vicious cycle.
It is.
Pranks lead to these mental health issues,
Right.
which then strain the healthcare system, which
Right,
then makes
yeah.
it even harder to address the problem.
Exactly. So the question becomes,
Yeah.
what can we do to break that cycle?
Yeah. Are there any solutions or strategies that the research like suggests?
Well, the researchers, they point to a few key areas
Okay.
where action could be taken.
Okay.
One of the biggest ones is education,
Okay.
public awareness campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
They can play a huge role in helping people understand the potential harm
Right.
that's caused by these pranks.
So it's about moving beyond this idea of it's just a prank, right?
Exactly.
And recognizing that these actions can have real consequences.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we need to promote digital literacy.
Yes.
And encourage people to think critically
Mm-hmm.
about what they're seeing and sharing online.
Exactly. And it's also about fostering empathy.
Yeah.
Put yourself in the shoes of the person being pranked
Mm-hmm.
and ask yourself, would I want to be on the receiving end of this?
That's such a good point.
Right. Would I find this funny or humiliating?
It's easy to get caught up in that mob mentality online
Oh, yeah.
where something that might seem harmless, if you're just with a small group of friends,
Right.
can quickly become something really hurtful
Absolutely.
or even dangerous.
Yes, because it gets amplified on social media.
And that brings up another point, right?
Mm-hmm.
What about the social media platforms themselves?
Oh, absolutely. They have a huge responsibility here
Yeah.
to moderate content
Mm-hmm.
and enforce community guidelines.
So holding platforms accountable
Yes.
for the kind of content that they allow to flourish.
Exactly. And that includes things like
Mhm.
providing clear reporting mechanisms
Okay.
so users can flag inappropriate content,
Mm-hmm.
taking quick action to remove those harmful videos,
Right.
even implementing algorithms that can maybe detect and flag
Okay.
potentially problematic pranks before they even go viral.
That seems like a lot to ask.
It's a challenge for sure,
Yeah.
but it's a challenge they need to address.
Mm-hmm.
They have this responsibility to create a safe and respectful online environment
Mhm.
for their users.
Right.
And that includes taking steps to mitigate the harm caused by these pranks.
Okay, so what about the legal side of things?
Yeah.
Are there any laws or regulations?
That's where things get a little tricky.
Okay.
Pranks often operate in this legal gray area.
Oh, okay.
While some might be harmless fun,
Right.
others definitely cross the line
Okay.
into harassment, defamation, even invasion of privacy.
So, so where do we draw the line?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's this complex issue of balancing freedom of speech
Mm-hmm.
with the right to privacy
Mm-hmm.
and protection from harm.
Right.
The research does suggest that we might need stricter legal frameworks
Okay.
to hold these pranksters accountable for their actions.
Okay.
Especially in cases involving impersonation of authority figures.
Okay, you mentioned impersonating authority figures.
Yeah.
Can you give me an example of what that might look like?
Sure. So one example from the research
Sure.
involved pranksters dressing up as police officers
Okay.
and conducting like fake arrests or raids.
Oh, wow.
And this kind of prank, it doesn't just cause immediate fear and distress. It also erodes trust in actual law enforcement officials.
Right. It's like crying wolf. If people are constantly exposed to these fake scenarios, they might not believe it when a real emergency happens.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to have this nuanced conversation. We can't just dismiss all pranks as harmless fun.
Right.
But we also need to be careful about censorship and overreach.
So it's about finding that balance
It is.
between protecting people from harm and allowing for creative expression.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the negative impacts of these pranks.
Yeah.
But I am curious, do the studies mention any potential positives?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
You know, while the research mainly focuses on the negative impacts,
Right.
there are some people who argue that pranks can be a form of
Okay.
social commentary or satire.
Interesting.
They can be used to expose hypocrisy, challenge authority,
Okay.
even spark conversations about important social issues.
So it's like using humor as a tool for social change.
In a way, yes. Think about pranks that target powerful figures or institutions, exposing their flaws, highlighting injustices.
Okay.
In some cases, these pranks can raise awareness, spark debate, and even lead to positive change.
It's like the court jester using humor to point
Yeah.
out the absurdity of the king's actions.
Right, but it's important to distinguish between
Okay.
pranks that are genuinely intended for social good
Right.
and those that are just disguised as such
Okay.
for the sake of views and notoriety.
So intention matters.
It does.
And it seems like that line between satire
Yeah.
and exploitation can be really blurry.
Absolutely. And that's where critical thinking is so important.
Mm-hmm.
As viewers, we need to be discerning about the content
Okay.
we consume
Right.
and ask ourselves, what's the intention behind this prank?
Right.
Is it really meant to be funny?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it just exploiting someone's vulnerability for entertainment?
It's about being aware of the power dynamic.
Yes.
Like who holds the power and who's being made vulnerable.
Right. And it's also about recognizing
Yeah.
that not everyone reacts to pranks in the same way.
Right. Right.
What might seem like harmless fun to one person
Yeah.
could be deeply upsetting or even traumatizing to another.
We all have different sensitivities.
We do.
And triggers, what might be a minor annoyance to one person
Right.
could trigger a panic attack in someone else.
And those individual differences,
Yeah.
they're often overlooked in the pursuit of viral fame or that comedic effect.
So if someone is listening to this right now and they're thinking, wow, I never realized how impactful these pranks could be,
Yeah.
what advice would you give them?
Well, first of all, be mindful of the content that you're sharing and promoting online. Ask yourself,
Yeah.
is this prank genuinely funny?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it just mean-spirited or exploitative?
It's about being selective with our clicks and our shares.
Exactly. And if you see a prank that seems harmful
Yeah.
or crosses a line,
Mm-hmm.
don't be afraid to speak up.
Okay.
Leave a comment. Report the video.
Mm-hmm.
Even start a conversation with your friends
Right.
about why you found it problematic.
So use your voice to advocate for
yes.
a more ethical, more empathetic online culture.
Exactly. And if you find yourself on the receiving end of a harmful prank, remember that you're not alone.
Right?
There are resources out there,
Yeah.
like support groups, counseling services, even legal aid
Okay.
to help you navigate the situation.
It's important to prioritize your own well-being
Absolutely.
and seek support if you need it.
And finally, I think it's crucial to cultivate that sense of skepticism and critical thinking when it comes to online content.
So not everything is as it seems.
Right, especially in the world of social media pranks.
Right.
Ask questions.
Okay.
Consider multiple perspectives. Don't be afraid to challenge the narratives that are being presented to you.
That's great advice for navigating not just social media pranks, but like
Right.
the online world in general.
It is.
We are constantly bombarded with information these days.
We are.
And it's more important now than ever to develop those critical thinking skills.
Absolutely.
As we're wrapping up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious what you think about the future of all this, like this whole prank culture, you know? Do you think this trend of like increasingly extreme pranks online, is that here to stay?
That's the big question.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's an easy answer, you know.
Right.
It really depends on a lot of different things, like how social media platforms respond to this,
Yeah.
how advertisers choose to align themselves with these creators, and ultimately how viewers, you know, like you, engage with all this content.
So it sounds like we all have a role to play in shaping the future of prank culture.
We do, absolutely.
Okay, so let's start with the platforms.
Yeah.
They obviously have a lot of power, right?
You do.
To influence what actually gets seen and shared. So if they take a strong stance against these harmful pranks,
Right?
you know, maybe implement stricter community guidelines.
Yeah.
Invest in better tools for moderating content.
Absolutely.
Maybe even partner with experts in psychology or digital ethics. Would that help?
Oh, I think that could make a huge difference.
Okay.
It's kind of like
Yeah.
setting the ground rules for the digital playground, you know?
Right. But what about the pranksters themselves?
Mm.
Like, can we expect them to suddenly become more ethical?
Well, let's be real. Not all of them are going to change overnight, right? But I do think there's a growing awareness, at least amongst some creators,
Okay.
that these pranks have real consequences.
Yeah.
And as viewers get more, you know, discerning and critical, the pranksters who just rely on shock value and exploitation, they might start losing their audience.
It's like that old saying, you know, vote with your feet.
Exactly.
If people stop watching, stop sharing those harmful pranks,
Yeah,
it sends a message, right?
it does. It absolutely does.
Okay. And what about advertisers?
Oh, they play a huge role too.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of power.
Okay.
If they start pulling their funding from channels that promote harmful content,
Right.
that could be a really powerful disincentive.
Yeah. Hitting them where it hurts. Right.
Right, because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
a lot of these pranksters are motivated by
Money.
money and fame.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if those incentives are tied to
Right.
ethical and responsible content, it could really shift things in a positive direction.
It kind of makes me think about how consumer demand can drive change, like in other industries, right?
Yeah.
Like how the demand for organic food led to changes in agriculture.
Yeah.
Maybe we could see something similar happen with online content.
It's a great analogy. Because as viewers, we do have that power. You know, we can choose what we watch,
Right.
what we share, what we support.
So it's not just about passively consuming content.
Right.
It's about actively
Yeah.
shaping the online world that we want to see.
Exactly. It's about using our voices, our clicks, our shares, even our wallets
Yeah.
to promote content that aligns with our values and holding those creators and platforms accountable
Right.
for the impact their content has on everybody.
That's a powerful message to end on here.
It is.
You know, this whole deep dive has really, really opened my eyes
Yeah,
to how complex this prank culture is,
it is complex.
and how something that just seems like harmless fun can actually have these, you know, really serious, far-reaching consequences.
It has been a fascinating conversation.
It has.
And I really do hope it encourages listeners
Yeah.
to think more critically about the content they're consuming and to use their voices to advocate for, you know, a more ethical and responsible online world.
Well said. And remember, if you or someone you know has been affected by one of these harmful pranks,
Right.
there are resources out there.
Absolutely.
Don't be afraid to reach out.
Please don't.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thank you.
Until next time, stay curious, stay critical, and stay kind.